marriage specifically as it is, if you go by Bible standards, it's a spiritual bonding between two people to create a one relationship is the way that it's looked at.
Tulsa Talks is the podcast that is inspiring people to have everyday meaningful conversations to gain perspective and help the world.
Welcome to Tulsa Talks. We're here today with Travis Fowler. The topic, relationships, marriage, and romantic partnerships. Travis, welcome back to the podcast, man.
What's up, man?
Good times, good times.
We ain't even at Ridgemont High, so it's not even fast.
Hopefully we won't go too fast. 30 minutes is our
That's about the good
guideline
speed
here.
there, yeah.
What can we cover in 30 minutes? And we hope to encourage people to live outside their perspective through meaningful conversations as they go through life.
Everybody's perspective, if you're getting a unique perspective, should only help educate you and let you grow as a human being.
Agreed. I was closed-minded at one time.
All of us, I think, are at a certain time.
Thought I was supposed to talk at people because I knew.
Yep. And I'd rather talk to people and have a conversation.
I'd rather speak with people.
That, you know what? I like that better.
That
See,
way-
I thought to, you said with. I'm good with that. I
At
like
to
that.
with progression.
Yeah. Or we're not, as long as we don't at to, we're not going to go Julius Caesar at this point.
So anyway, Travis, you've been in a long-term relationship. 7 years, you say?
7 years this upcoming May. May 21st is what we officially call our anniversary date. Yes.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
What are your thoughts on relationships and the government's involvement?
I kind of think it's a little too much. There's an old business term that they used to use when it came towards business and government called laissez-faire. And I feel like that's kind of what relationships should be when it comes to the government. I very much have always viewed marriage specifically as it is, if you go by Bible standards, it's a spiritual bonding between two people to create a one relationship is the way that it's looked at.
And have offspring.
Nowhere did I ever see in that Bible was somebody needing to get their marriage license first before they stood before God and said, I want to declare this person as my life partner, my soulmate, my wife, husband, whatever the case may be. I don't recall ever seeing that anywhere. And if it is in there, somebody can please correct me. But I don't remember that being in the Bible at all. I don't remember people being taxed. I don't remember people being told.
They were. And it was a crippling tax when they took 20%.
Jeez.
It was a crippling tax of bondage when the government took 20%. And as far as the weddings of that era, the spiritual leaders were over the government instead of under the government. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about today. Where do you place yourself? Do you let the state, federal government be over your spiritual well-being, or do you live your life spiritually? Hopefully all people can come to that realm of living spirit first and having good governance as a byproduct of that.
I would probably go more towards the latter of your statement than I would the former. It's funny, the older I get, this would be a whole other topic of conversation.
We can have you back.
The older I get, I kind of stray away more from government, and I don't want to go into political talk on this.
Yeah, no, this is about relationships and the influence that the government should have on your relationship.
Yeah.
Now, let me make sure that I spoke clearly.
Sure.
I think, and I hope you might agree to a certain degree, that when we live knowing that we are spiritual beings and we're led by that, and we love and respect other people's perspectives, that we can be enlightened to run governance under that way of life so that we can help people be developed into who they should be.
I agree a lot with that statement. And honestly, it kind of comes down to the root of something we were talking about before we started recording on a religious aspect is the Bible, the golden rule, treat others as you would want to be treated, do unto others as they would do unto you. And if we're taught through that spirituality, have respect and compassion for your fellow man, well, a lot of that doesn't go around this day and age. But if we had that from our spiritual being, because that's what we've been taught, whether it be through scripture, religion, whatever the case,
self-enlightenment,
something to that extent, and we were more compassionate or empathetic towards people, that's where the spirituality comes in. And that has nothing to do with the government, but it, like you said, can influence the government if we were to get to that point. Because people like to talk about, especially myself, and I say it all the time, our government today, and I will stand by this, does not care about us, the common people. They don't, period.
We the people or how does that go?
We the people, I don't know anymore, and I don't think they do either. So that's kind of why we're at where we are.
Yeah, for the people.
Yes, and I don't think they are. They're for themselves. And I would think if we had, and I've heard other people say this before, this goes right into what we're saying, if more people had that companionship or cared more about the person as opposed to what can it do for me potentially monetarily, we would have a lot more success and more empathy towards each other than we do now.
Every business leader that I know that their light switch was turned on about being focused on serving people instead of the money.
Yep.
Their money has increased drastically.
Because when you put people before money, the wealth will come.
Yeah, the byproduct.
Yeah, and that's all it is.
It's a byproduct.
And it honestly, most people that get that monetary value from that success of caring more about people first, they don't really care too much about the money. Do they like it? Sure, who doesn't? I mean, at the end of the day, as my mom liked to tell me, I have to work for money, but I don't, how's the saying go? I need money to live, but I don't live for money. There we go. That's what my grandfather used to say.
And when you have that flow and that perspective of not having that spirit of mammon over your life, when you get that money, it can flow freely into causes that you care about instead of being some abstract number in a bank that you never experience.
You'll never fully use it, in some people's case. Like Jeff Bezos, multi-billionaire. Who's going to spend all his billions of dollars? I know he won't.
How does this relate to relationships in the way that you experience it? What we've talked about so far is living on a spiritual plane and breaking the spirit of mammon that causes a lot of people to hate to go to work Monday and can't wait to get to Friday to have the weekend off. But you've brought this in today to talk about you and your non-wedding ceremony relationship that you have for almost 7 years that you value on a spiritual level. How does that relate? How do you bring that into the other? How do you transfer those life skills into your personal relationship with your significant other?
Well, you gotta kind of understand how me and her started. We met through, at the time, both her and I used to do some local modeling around Tulsa. And
I thought you were a good-looking guy. I hadn't met your wife yet.
She's a knockout. So, and she recently just got braces, and they're not going to be on for too long. But as she was even joking with me about last night, she was like, I'm about to be the funny one and the pretty one, so you better start stepping your game up. I'm like, thanks.
Causing each other to excel in life.
Oh, man, it's wonderful. She legitimately makes me laugh. And she is, by all parts and anything you can say when you're around us both, she is indeed the funny one. I will give her that, as much as it pains me to admit. She's more funny than me.
Yeah, my wife's quieter, and I'm the one that's more outgoing. And I don't know if either one of us are very funny, but I try.
That's what I say. I try. I have my moments where I'm actually really funny. It makes her, and she'll say that, it makes her laugh. But as she had a running joke when we became an official couple, she always used to tell people, she was like, I describe it as he's the pretty one and I'm the funny one, is what she used to say. And I'm like, well, I guess I got something out of it, so I'll take pretty, I guess.
So how did you guys found your relationship coming together as a unit without going into marriage?
When we
as far as government marriage is concerned.
Right. When we first met in 2015 and we dated for about a month. At the time, it just didn't work out. She wasn't in, even by her self-admission, was not in a good place to really see where a relationship with her and I, where that could go. So it didn't work at that time. 3 years goes by. She was in a relationship that didn't work out. I was in a relationship that didn't work out. 2018, we came along and we just reconnected one day. And literally, it started off as in like, hey, we're just hanging out, no big deal. And then just little by little, it was, hey, you want to go get a bite to eat? Yeah. Hey, you want to come over and watch something? Yeah. Then, as me and her like to say, the two things that spelled it for us was when I invited her to stay over one night, and then she invited to cook for me. She was like, she doesn't cook for a lot of people. From what she had told me, is that was a sign right there that she was really getting more heavily into us as a relationship. But we didn't make anything official. Like, we didn't call each other boyfriend or girlfriend for like the first 6 months of us dating. And we did that by design. We didn't care to have a label. We were just enjoying each other's company and seeing where things went. And it just progressively, we would do the boyfriend, girlfriend things. We would go out to dinners, go to movies, things like that. And then after that, 6 months, we were a unit and we were boyfriend, girlfriend, which a funny story in that is when I went to ask her, hey, do you want to be exclusive and make this boyfriend, girlfriend thing?
I thought we already were.
No, I actually choked on a piece of food I was eating at the time.
Oh, wow.
So I was literally coughing it up when I was about to say, so, hey, do you want, and then went right into the cough. She goes, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, I literally was just about to ask, do you want to make this an official relationship? And then I almost died choking on this piece of chicken I was eating. I hope this isn't a bad omen for the relationship at this point. But me and her have a lot of different views on a lot of different subjects.
I guess she said yes.
Oh yeah, clearly.
And did she already think you were to a certain degree? Without asking?
Oh yeah. We talk about it now, and yeah, like I was saying earlier, we were doing all of the boyfriend, girlfriend things. We just weren't, as she likes to say, we weren't admitting it to each other. So it's true.
Yeah, hold it back a little bit.
Yeah. But
and I think I think that's good for a relationship. Might it be with a significant other, a spouse, or might it be in relationships with other people you work with and whatnot? There's a dating phase of anything, and I think it's good to continue dating.
Oh, absolutely. But most people will say that these days.
But if you aggressively pursue someone, that might put them off. And because you're trying to heat that relationship up too fast.
And that might be part of
it. If you hold those reins back that you really want to run with, sometimes to a certain degree, then that could actually attract people to you instead of repelling them from you.
Right. And that was, I think the reason why it worked out so well for her and I was both of us told each other when we very first started reconnecting in 2018, coming out of relationships that we both were in, we were both in serious relationships that didn't work out. So neither one of us was in any hurry to get back into the relationship, which took a lot of pressure of, like you're saying, from that mental aspect of like, oh, is this person going to like me? Are we going to meet up again? Blah, 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 blah. Neither one of us cared for that. So we were like, let's just see what happens. Yeah. And it just all worked out. And we've now been together, like I was saying earlier, 7 years. And
so when you guys went through those bad relationships, without getting into the nitty gritty,
sure,
but why was that former relationship not good for you?
I won't speak on
exactly
her side.
The details.
Right.
Just from your perspective, why did it not work for you?
For me, on my relationship, the previous relationship I had before her, to this day, I will always give kudos to my ex because she's a sweetheart. She really was. We just didn't work. There was just traits about her personality and my personality that didn't mesh well, and
Yeah.
we didn't know how to communicate through that well.
Did
And
you know that you had these little quirks about you that might not be okay with somebody else?
I did, but it took a while before I think both of us. I realized it first. Like I was the one who broke up with her. I was the one that initiated the breakup because I realized where I was heading and where my mindset was at that time. And
Did
it wasn't fair to her to continue making her think that I'm still okay with being in this relationship when I was out. I was done with it.
if you know you have these quirks
Mhm.
and you're upfront with these quirks that you have,
Mhm.
and you went into this start date mode,
Mhm.
if you would have been more upfront about, hey, this is what I've had in the past that people have had a little bit of exception with.
It
Does this
depends.
fit you?
It depends because that can go one of two ways. If you're too upfront with people, you can scare people off because maybe they don't agree with some of the things that you agree with or that you vocalized. Or maybe you come off too strong by saying, well, this is what I am, and I'm looking for somebody that can either accept this or move on. That can be a little too strong for people.
Yeah.
So
But can you communicate it without communicating it too strong?
I think so, but I don't think it's something that needs to be discussed too quickly, like
Right.
nothing up front.
A few weeks?
At least, I would honestly say your most successful relationships, we were talking about in a dating phase. In that dating phase, take the time to enjoy each other's company and casually bring up those
Yeah.
situations. Don't hit everything all at once. If it can
don't
just
don't
naturally come
explode
up.
them.
Yeah, no, no. I think the first 3 to 6 months of a relationship is usually the
Discovery process.
yes, probationary period, if you even want to call it that. You're learning about each other.
Right.
And yeah, you're legitimately finding out, can this person fit with me and do I fit with this person? I know that sounds like a job interview,
How,
but
how much makeup do you put on that pig,
yeah,
so to say,
exactly.
is my
Exactly.
question. And how much time do you want to waste by shadowing who you
Mm.
really are? And how fast can you build that is a good question that everybody needs to determine for themselves.
I think so. Because
But at
you
least
can't put a time limit on everybody because that's like saying that this is a formulaic thing
right.
and nobody has the same formula makeup.
But at least we could be honest about what we do share.
Yes, yes, and both that's one aspect that me and I call her my wife, so that's how I'll refer to her here. Um, that's how me and my wife are. We're very honest with each other. I won't even say to a fault because I know that we both have had strong opinions about different topics, and we can either get to one of two factors. We either agree to disagree, which is usually when it can come out to, or there is, and there has been a time, as I was telling you before we started recording, she changed my opinion on a topic. And that can happen. But that also comes with the acceptability that you're not always going to have the same perspective as your spouse. And that's okay. It is okay to not share the exact same beliefs as your significant other, but you need to
Or
respect it.
yes, I don't think that we'll all ever have the same perspective exactly as any other human being.
We shouldn't. You can share ideas, you can share perspectives, but if you are modeling yourself completely off of somebody else's makeup, you're already losing. You shouldn't have to be changing who you are to fit that person. Now, there is going to be aspects about your personality in any relationship. The people will always say that stupid phrase of like, "Oh, well, you shouldn't ask me to change, you knew who I was before." That's not there's a different type of change that comes with that
Growing.
relationship. Yes, they're not asking you to change who you are. It's asking you to take in a different side, a different perspective. Utilize that to create something different than what you thought previously.
Yeah.
You can still have the same thought. You can even still have the same belief, But I guarantee you that if you are more open to somebody else's viewpoint, it's going to make you think about your perspective just a tad different than what you were before. You're not going to be as extreme about it as you were prior, because if you're open to it, then you just gained the knowledge of something you didn't have before. And it should make you think. And that's what a lot of people don't like to do anymore. They don't like to think. They don't like to think critically.
Find their click and
Just
attach
stick
to
with
it.
it. Yes.
And hit the exclamation point.
Stay with it and never drift away from it, it feels like. And that is, to me, the most crippling thing about society this day, is that everybody wants to say, oh, you subscribe to this side or this or whatever. And then they never want to drift away from it. And it's like, that's not how you learn. That's not how you grow. That's especially not how you grow in relationships. You have to learn other people's viewpoints and perspectives to be a successful relationship.
Let me challenge you and my thought on this.
All right.
As I just thought about it. So don't let people put you in a box.
No.
But if we tell people that they should be open-minded more, then is that a box itself?
No, I don't think so. Because
this is the box that you're attached to.
Yeah. Open your box. Open the box. You know, keep that box open so you can jump in and out of the box. You know?
We as human beings are a very peculiar bunch.
Oh yeah, we're the most. That's why we're the highest in the food chain. We're a unique bunch. We are also our worst enemy. So
until we rid ourselves of that enemy, if possible.
If possible. I know with me and my wife, we've had a lot of challenges come our way.
7 years,
7
a lot
years,
of challenges.
Lot. You know, we moved in together a year and a half after we first started seeing each other again. So it was September of 2019. We got pregnant with our daughter in August of 2020. And that was a very scary time. Because
bring a child into the pandemic?
Oh yeah, it was absolutely terrifying. And what was the ironic part about the scenario was she had never wanted kids, and I always wanted 2 kids. As our relationship grew, I actually, and as society too, I'll put that out there as well, I started to really look at it, and especially during COVID times, I started to really be like, you know, I like my dogs. I like my girlfriend. I like our life together. I'm kind of okay not having kids, especially in this world. Because like who, with as chaotic as it's, I mean, seriously.
I've heard that thought. Why do we want to bring other human beings into this
such
experience?
A chaotic world? Yeah. And that was legitimately what made me stop and be like, you know, I think I'm perfectly fine never having children. And I told her that. And we agreed because she's this understanding. She knew how much having kids used to mean to me. So we agreed. We were like, you know what? Let's have the conversation of kids at the end of the year, December. Let's talk about it and see where we're at. Maybe
this is
2020.
December 2020?
Yes. So
September?
No, August. So I like to joke around that I made that declaration of not wanting kids in June of 2020. And then ironically, 2 months later, we didn't even ever get to the conversation in December because the choice was made for us. So we ended up having our daughter in May of 21, and she's almost 4 now, which is unbelievable in and of itself. She was the greatest surprise that we could have ever hoped for.
So y'all officially started dating in May 7 years ago.
May of 2018. Yep. And became official in November of that same year, but we always look at May as the start point. So that's where we call our relationship, our anniversary is in May.
And then 3 years later?
Yeah. 3 years later in the same month. Yeah. So our anniversary and our daughter's birth date is all in the same month. May is a chaotic month in our family. There's birthdays, anniversaries galore in the month of May. So we kind of dread when May comes along because we're like, oh, we've got so much we get to do.
So you guys slowly entered into this relationship after exiting relationships that y'all were in different ones before.
Right.
And you guys have some challenges from perspective and understanding that sometimes you guys have a little bit of friction, maybe.
Oh, we've had stances where even to this day, we differ on a subject I won't even say without going into detail because it may go to that point. Um, Friends with exes, or can you be friends with an ex? Um, I am of the belief that you can be friends with an ex, but it depends on the situation and it also depends on the ex.
My wife of 33 years, we've been together almost 35 years.
Congratulations in your own right.
Yeah, she's put up with a lot. She's put up with a lot.
Let's face it, women put up a lot with men. They do. We do.
Yeah.
We're not an easy species.
There are some guys that I've been around that she dated before us, and they were okay guys to be around.
Yeah.
I had no problem with that. Other guys could give me a vibe.
Yep.
And that's not okay.
And that's kind of the same stance I take. I was talking about my ex beforehand. That was actually one of the big things that caused our relationship to divulge, because she had a problem with one of my friends who was a female, and she was very adamant that she was like, I don't want you hanging out with that person. To which I always told her, I was like, but why? She hasn't done anything to you, and she hasn't done anything to this relationship either. She's not tried to break us up. She's not tried to speak ill on it. If anything, she's always been complimentary. And it was always a source of contention that, coincidentally, 3 years after we split, me and her ran into each other and we actually had a great 30-minute conversation. It was a very, very cathartic, because there was some things that I felt like I did wrong, especially in the breakup aspect, that I wanted to apologize to her for. And I was glad I got a chance to do that. But in the same breath, she even in her own way acknowledged how she had gotten into a relationship after her and I broke up. And she was like, when that started to end, she flat out told the guy, she's like, I need you to be upfront and honest with me with what's going on, because I spent almost 3 years with one guy who swore up and down that he was not doing anything with a woman, a specific woman. And I did not believe him. And it turned out he was telling me the truth this whole time. And I didn't believe him. So I need you to tell me what you have actually been doing. So it was like, wow, she acknowledged that I was being real with her the whole time.
Yeah. So what you just said is, if we have insecurities,
that can be the biggest downfall of a relationship. But that also is the partner's job to make your partner, who may have those insecurities, make them feel secure with you. And if you're not doing that, then that is a fault of you that you need to correct.
Yeah, that can be jacked up.
It is. It can very well be.
Somebody emotionally destroying somebody to get them to be insecure.
Yep.
Is messed up.
It's
and
horrible.
You want to run from that person.
Absolutely. And I've been in that relationship. That was my first, as I call it, my first adult relationship. That was how we were. And it was bad. It was a year and a half of
pure hell.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You can say there was a few sprinkled in good moments, but yeah, it was not a fun relationship at all.
Manipulating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not okay.
No.
In any form.
No.
Of whatever it is.
Not
Manipulation is not okay.
No. And that's one thing that I am very happy that, as an adult especially, and in my relationship with my wife, we are in no way close to that for each other whatsoever. She is her own human being with her own thoughts and capabilities, just as myself. And we're just a unit that works. And it's wonderful.
Tell me about how it works.
So one of the biggest aspects that I've heard people talk about with relationships is like their religious aspects of it. I don't think when she hears this, it's not going to get me any trouble. This is her belief system. She's pagan. I'm Catholic. That's what I was born, and I'm still practicing of that faith.
Yeah, describe what paganism means to you.
Her pagan
or
belief.
Her.
She'll be the first to say it, and I'm perfectly okay saying it. She likes to call herself a witch. She has tarot cards. She does readings for herself. She has what some people would call witchcraft. She has some of that stuff. It's not of a dark variety. I have seen it. I have seen her do things and her practicing her belief system.
Stuff works.
For her, it does. Is it something that works for me? No,
No.
but it doesn't
not,
have to.
I'm not talking about that. Okay, what does it actually do?
It comforts her, and that's all that it needs to do.
Okay.
It's not up for me to say that shouldn't be comforting to her.
Yeah, let me ask it another way, a little more pointed. Have you ever seen anything come about that in reality in the physical realm?
I would say yes. Yes, I have. And it goes based off of how I will only give this example because I feel like it's poignant to your question there. I was talking like she does tarot cards. She has a tarot card that she
Right.
did. She did a reading one time.
Of her own. She has her own tarot cards. She
Yes.
flips them over
Yep.
and she reads them.
Yep. And I asked her to explain to me one time what her reading was. And she gave me what it was. And I can't even remember exactly what it entailed, but alls I do remember is about, oh, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks later, there was a situation where it was like, "Oh, this kinda actually intertwined with what your reading was." So, I've seen her belief system work in the reality. So, if it works for her, that's wonderful.
Yeah. To me, the Bible talks about stones
Mhm.
and senses as far as perfumes,
Mhm.
ointments.
Yep.
They talk about the stars.
Mhm.
They talk about nature.
Yep.
And to me, the exception that the Bible has to those things is worshiping the creation instead of the creator.
And here's where she will say we were talking earlier about looking at the Bible as both of a historical and spiritual element.
Right.
She looks at
Pre-recording, yeah.
Yep, she looks at it as historical, and that's it. She looks at the Bible as a historical book. She grew up, I believe, in a meth it's either Baptist or Methodist upbringing, with her grandma. So she knows of the Bible, but she doesn't view it in the spiritual way. She does believe that these things have happened. She sees it from the historical side, whereas I take it as both, and
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
How about this question? Do spiritual things manifest themselves physically?
Yes, they do.
Does she think that?
Uh, I would say in her view and her way of worshiping through her practices, yes, they do.
So if those things are historical evidence of things that actually happen, how does that not allow the thought that they are physical things that happen because of the spiritual realm?
I don't know. That would be a question for her.
That would be an interesting question.
It would, but you know what? It's something that just doesn't work on her side.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, when you would propose that question to me, that's where I would come in and be like, well, then how do you continue to deny that there's a spiritual element there? But this is also something that she and I have talked about before. My dad and I have also had this conversation. Um, she does believe that there is a higher being. There is something that connects all of us together. She just believes it's an energy form, and she doesn't call that energy God.
Why
Whereas
should
I
we
do.
label God?
There you go. That's my dad said the same thing, and I thought the same thing too. At the end of the day, just because she doesn't call it God and I do, we still believe that there's something higher than both of us that intertwines human beings.
And that will enlighten us as we focus on or are focused on,
Mhm.
might it be we doing it ourselves or it doing it for us.
All religion does that too. When you think about it, think of any religion. Every single religion has a higher being that connects human beings together. We just view it all differently.
And all creation together.
Yes.
We are a part of something much larger than I am individually or you are individually. And that's what this whole thing that we're doing is called the Complete Peace Movement.
Yep. You know,
it happens to be Tulsa Talks.
Here's what's so funny too. This is something she said to me one time that I'd never stopped and thought about till she said it out loud. Everybody, any war specifically, because we were watching something that had to do with a war thing. Every war in some form or fashion has always been brought up in some way by either business or religious views. especially back in the 15th, 14th centuries, things like that.
Look at it now. You have war. It's over gaining land. And do we ever really own land anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Something she said out loud that made so much sense to me one day was, so many people want to try to tell you that your religion or your religious view is wrong. Has anybody ever thought that maybe not every religion is wrong, but maybe every religion is right?
From a perspective.
And this is what I mean. So as a Catholic, I believe in Jesus and God and heaven, okay? When I pass away, I hope that that's where I end up going, right? Buddhism and Hinduism believe something completely different about an afterlife, but who's to say that they're wrong? Because what if their afterlife through their belief system is true? Just like, what if mine is true? What if hers is true and she just becomes energy that goes back into the world to make the world to continue to go around? What if she's right? What if all of us are right? Nobody ever thinks about that. So who's to say that we're all truly wrong? Because at the end of the day, none of us know what really happens when we die until we're there. It's better to be an open-minded individual of what is possible as opposed to, no, that's not true. That won't happen. Do you know?
Live your lane.
Yeah.
Live what's inside you.
Yep.
Come alongside other human beings. Have those marriages. Have those romantic relationships. Do it like you should do it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the game, love overcomes hate, good overcomes evil. And I think that if we embrace each other and allow each other to be, we can grow into something much more than we can with these guards up, hating each other. The Bible says to love those that are like you is easy. To love those that are not like you is not. So when we come together and we love those people that are not like us, and we allow them to be who they are, and don't allow them to harm us, but we embrace them the way they need to be embraced, we can live with a much greater perspective.
Empathy can rule all and can make everybody much more happy.
Thanks for coming today, Travis.
Thank you, sir.
We are here to help you discover or develop your passions, how you can use them, and why you exist. How can we help you help others better?